Blessings and blessings. Happy New Year. All right, Happy New Year, Happy New Year, Happy New Year. It is the Essene New Year. All right, it's the solar New Year. All right, and we're here to bring forth a little report about it. All right, first and foremost, I want to say all praises be unto the Most High Almighty, Ahaya Yeshaya Christ, our Lord and Savior, the Essene Community Church of Christ. I am Archbishop Shamar.
And I'm Bishop Haran.
We'll be bringing forth today's report / lesson. All right, so once again, it is the Essene New Year. It is happening on the 4th day of the week. All right, and it is the 4th day of the week technically on our calendar year as well. So we are celebrating the new year on the 4th day of the week. All right, and we're going to go into a little about that. We're going to go into a little history about where the beginning of months came from and how the nations use it now. So we're at Isaiah 53:1.
The book of the prophet Isaiah, chapter 53, verse 1. Who hath believed our report? And to whom is the arm of the Lord revealed?
All right, so who is going to believe our report? As we always use, as Isaiah had to ask this even back in his time, who is going to believe the report? And whom is the power of the Lord going to be revealed to? All right, so as we go through this lesson, at the end of it, the understanding that we should reach that, you know what, the report is true, and the arm of the Lord, I believe, is resting here because of the understanding and the direct. No one has to tell you this no more. You can see it with your own mind and your own eyes. You know, we're not telling you just to believe us, but all the evidence should bring you to its conclusion. All right, so we're going to go to Ecclesiastes 3:1.
The book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, verse 1. To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the heaven.
All right, so to everything there is a season and a time to every purpose. So everything is connected to everything. All right, seasons, times, purposes. Anything happen at a time, nothing's happening in that time for no reason. So as we go through these things, we're going to see that where these things fall on, everything is set there for a reason and purposes.
Lauren Hill song, everything is everything. What is meant to be will be.
Right.
After winter, that comes spring.
All right, and that's what we're going to see now. Everyone knows the winter, the spring, that part, but they don't know how to kind of understand the marking of the new year, where it's coming at, why it's here, those things. All right, which some people think that it's things that they already understand, so they don't need to go into. All right, so we're going to go right into the Bible. All right, where the Most High told the Hebrews and showed them where to begin their months at. All right, so we're going to go to Exodus 12:1.
The book of Exodus, chapter 12, starting at the first verse. And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. Speak ye unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, In the 10th day of this month they shall take to them every man a lamb, according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for an house. And if the household be too little for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next to his house take it according to the number of the souls. Every man according to his eating shall make your count for the lamb.
All right, so here we have the Most High giving Israel a command here and telling them that this is going to be the beginning of months for them. All right, and how do we know what month this is because after that he goes into the taking of the lamb, so preparing for the Passover. All right, and we all know that even the Jewish people at this time, they all prepare the Passover and these things around these times. All right, theirs might go in April sometimes and things of that nature, but it's around these times. All right, in spring times. Everyone knows Passover times for people who observe, the Old Testament starts around these times, and all the differs start to begin. All right. So the Most High told them that this is going to be the beginning of months for you. All right, and then he told them to start preparing the lamb. All right, so they started to prepare the lamb on the 10th day of that month. All right, getting ready to make it ready for the 14th day at evening. All right, so we're going to go into the scriptures to show you what month that is. So in the Bible, that month is called Abib. All right, we're gonna go into a little understanding on that out of the Jewish Encyclopedia.
All right, this is out of the Jewish Encyclopedia, the definition for Abib, which means ears of grain. Name of the first month of the Hebrew year, corresponding to the Babylonian and Postilian Hebrew Nisan. According to the Babylonian system, which probably prevailed in Palestine, it began in ordinary years in the last third of March, but in every third or in calendar year a month later. See calendar.
All right, so this is the original understanding. We're going to go into Abib because we're now talking about a certain month. So we have Abib here, and this month here that we see, this month we're going to see is different from the month as we go along that the Hebrews deal with now, which is Nisan. So Nisan is the starting of the Hebrew year as well, all right, but it's not the same as Abib, and this even tells us that. So it says it's the name, Abib is the name of the first month of the Hebrew year, corresponding to the Babylonian and Postilian Hebrew Nisan year. All right, so we have a Hebrew year where it's saying this Abib is, and then we have a Babylonian Hebrew Nisan year month as well. So we have 2 months that begin the year, and people think that they're the same. All right, but what we're pointing out now is Abib, and here it also says it began in ordinary years in the last third of March. All right, so we have Abib, which means ears of grain, and this was what started the month, and they're telling you that in correspondence to the month that we're in now and how the calendar is set up now, that this Hebrew month started at the last third of March, if you were to compare it, all right? And it's all lining up now. All right, so we're gonna go into Nisan, all right, which is the first month of the Jewish calendar. All right, so we went through the first month of the Hebrew calendar, which is Abib. We're going now through the first month of the Jewish calendar and what the people who are Hebrew observe now, which is the month Nisan. All right, so give us that.
Nisan or Nisan, the first month on Jewish calendar according to the Torah, coincides with March to April on the civil calendar. The Torah calls it Chodesh HaAviv, the month of spring, as it marks the beginning of spring months. On the first day of Nisan in the year 2448 from creation, parentheses 1313 BCE, 2 weeks before the Exodus, God showed Moses the crescent new moon, instructing him regarding the setting of the Jewish calendar and the mitzvah of sanctifying the new month. Quote, "This month shall be for you the head of months, the first of the months of the year," unquote. That's Exodus chapter 12, verse 2. This ushered in the first Jewish month and commenced the lunar calendar that Jews have been following ever since. It was the first mitzvah given to the newly born nation of Israel even before the Exodus from Egypt.
All right, so here we have Nisan, all right, which was the Jewish calendar, all right, which coincides March, April times. So I told you it's in March, but sometimes it goes into April. All right, it's their month that begins spring. All right, and what begins this new year, all right, is the crescent moon. All right, so you're gonna see that what begins our new year, all right, is gonna be based on the equinox. All right, and that's what Abib is based on. Whereas Nisan now, that the Jewish deal with, is gonna be based on the moon. All right, and the crescent moon at that. So that's the differences with the 2 months. All right, one is Abib, one deals with the equinox based on that. The other one starts with the seeing of the crescent moon. All right, we're gonna go to a book, and it's called Solar Sanity Lunar Lunacy. So that's lunar. Sorry, that's a typo. That's my typo.
Okay.
All right, so that's Solar Sanity versus Lunar Lunacy. All right, by Pastor Peter J. Peters. All right, and it's gonna go into this pastor goes into the understanding of the calendar, where he starts to understand, hey, it's the solar calendar is the right one, and he starts to understand what he's seeing with the lunar calendar, and he came out with a in-depth book speaking about the vernal equinox and the difference with the solar calendar. All right, so we're going to go into that.
The Judaizing snakes who try to get people to follow the unscriptural lunar calendar are quick to point out that those who hold to a solar calendar and begin the year with the spring equinox cannot totally prove that the spring equinox should be used to begin the year. What the hypocrites fail to mention is that they themselves use the spring equinox to begin their lunar year, only in a different way.
All right, so, all right, the Jews who deal with Judaism, all right, they deal with the lunar calendar, and they have to back these things, all right, with some type of understanding. So they come up with this understanding, all right, and they say that theirs is based on the crescent, all right. And this person's saying that even though they're basing theirs on the crescent, theirs is still wholly based on the spring equinox showing up, and that's how they base theirs. And he's going to kind of go into it, all right. Continue for us.
Abib is the name of the first month of the year that our Creator gave us and that the Israelites used as the first month. Exodus chapter 13 verse 4. It began on the spring equinox.
All right, so he understands it began on the spring equinox. All right, and this, what he's going to say, is the month that the Most High originally gave the Israelites. So that's what he's stating here. This is not the Jewish month or what the Jews deal with. He's stating that this is what the Israelites in the Bible, what you're reading, when the Most High gave it to them, not what people saying they're Hebrews or whatever is dealing with. So this is what he's insinuating. All right, continue.
Nisan is the name of the Jews' first month of the year and is, according to the encyclopedias, of Babylonian origin.
All right, so see, he says the Jews. All right, so everyone, even the Bible, even in the Bible in the New Testament, they keep saying Jews, 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 because this is the Jews' feast days, the Jews' Passover. All right, there's a difference between what he gave the Israelites and what the Jews are dealing with. All right, and it started with our people first. All right, but continue.
The first of Abib falls on the vernal equinox, whereas the first of Nisan falls on the first day after the first new moon after the vernal equinox. So, you see, both the Israelite solar calendar and the Jewish lunar calendar use the vernal equinox. When the Judaizers say, quote, you can't totally prove from one scripture that the first of Abib is the vernal equinox, unquote, they show their hypocrisy, for they are using the vernal equinox as well.
What constitutes an equinox?
It's equinox is equal day, equal night. So equinox means equal night. So
the
it's equal
exact
day.
same, like,
Yeah, so it's 12 and 12. On that day, it's 12 and 12. All right. All the other days, it's moving. All right. So that's what the equinox is. So equinox. Sorry, I didn't think that it's 12 hours day, 12 hours night on that time, and then from that time now, the days start to get longer than the night. And then when we go to the winter now, when we go to the autumn equinox, all right, that one switches now, and now the nights are getting longer than the days now. And then that's when we're going into winter.
Are they connected to the solstices? Like,
Yes, those are the solstices. The solstices are connected right to those things. So there's a solstice right there. All right, yeah. All right, so continue.
What they are hypocritically trying to do is put the burden of proof that using the vernal equinox is right on others when they equally have the same burden of proof. The first of Abib and the first of Nisan can never be on the same day. The closest they could ever be would be one day apart, and that would happen only when the new moon immediately followed the vernal equinox. In such a case, the first of Abib would be the next day, the day after the new moon. The furthest apart they could be would be 30 days. Most Bible students and commentaries erroneously claim that Abib and Nisan are just two different names for the exact same month. This is not so. The fact that they are different explains why Jesus had the Passover on a different day than the Jews.
All right. So here we see that the closest that these two could come to the same time, all right, is one day apart. Because so the Jews are trying to say that new moon happened on the same time when the Most High told the Israelites that this is where they should start their month, which was a vernal equinox. All right. And then we see it comes close to at the time of Christ when he's having his Passover, because Christ has his Last Supper with his disciples, and then he has the Passover where he's now become the Passover, which kind of confuses people where they call it the Last Supper now, because they're on different calendars, just that time it lined up together where it was like coincides beside each other. It doesn't usually come like that. All right, so this is the pastor, Peter J. Peters. You can go and look up his book, Solar Sanity versus Lunar Lunacy, and he kind of goes through a length of things showing the vernal equinox connection. All right, so we're going to go also into why our New Year lands on the 4th day. All right.
It's a crazy thing. In jail, it's a goal. When someone calls you lunar.
When someone
calls you a lunar, it's a beef. It's a beef.
It's
a beef.
Right. So the 4th day is when we're in Wednesday now, and we're on the 4th day. We're in the daytime. Is when the New Year begins. The Essene one. When we first heard it, we're like, all right, based on the scripture we're gonna go into, this is why. But after totally understanding and getting understanding of numbers and symbolically, we understand why it even was set up here now. All right, and we'll get that as we go through. So we're gonna go to Genesis 1 and 13. All right, back into the beginning and see what the Most High did at the beginning with the lights and the firmament.
The book of Genesis chapter 1, starting at the 13th verse. And the evening and the morning were the 3rd day. And God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs, and for seasons, and for days and years. And let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth. And it was so. And God made 2 great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. And God set them in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. And the evening and the morning were the 4th day.
All right, so this happened on the 4th day. All right. So the Most High placed these things in the firmament on the 4th day. All right, and we're gonna get, we brought this understanding. I'll go back to our calendar, Secret of the Times. But the Most High set forth the calendar, the moon, the sun, on the 4th day. It clearly tells us there. All right, and when we're dealing with the calendar, I don't think people understand that the calendar is not tracking days. That's not what the calendar tracks. All right, calendar is not made to track days. The calendar tracks the sun, moon, and the stars. All right, so the Most High is showing us here that the week was already in process, and on the 4th day he put the sun, moon, and the stars on, and now we're tracking the sun, moon, and the stars. From that time, a calendar is made, because the calendar could only be based on the sun, moon, and the stars. All right, so that's why it starts on the 4th day of the week, because that's when he put it up there, on the 4th day of the week. All right, so on the 4th day of the week, it was the 1st day of the 1st month. All right, a lot of people think that the 1st day of the 1st month is going to start on the 1st day of the week, when that's not the case. All right, so you'll think, if you're thinking with your own mind, you're gonna be like, yeah, the 1st day of the 1st month is gonna start on the 1st day of the week. All right, the Most High did this so you understand that God put this here. All right, God is here. God is real. All right, the year starts on the 4th day. Somebody waited till this time to place this here, and now it's continuing on there now. All right, so he's letting you know he's real. We know he's real because how else did it reach on the 4th day? All right, how did it reach on the 4th day? All right, he placed it there. He told us in the scriptures.
Fine mathematics.
All right.
Fingerprint of God.
All right, and he placed it there as well. Not just, oh, I'm just going to place it here, but we're going to see he placed it there because that day is the doorway day. All right, that day represents a doorway, and we're going to go into that. All right, so we're going to go into examining the letter 4, because that would have been called the fourth day of the week. It wouldn't have been called Wednesday. All right, it's called the fourth day of the week. All right, they added the names to it, so the days were numbered, not named. All right, so they are all the days of the week had names. I mean numbers to it, but now they have names to it.
Fourth.
All right.
Fourth day.
Yeah, it's the fourth day of the week. That's what it is. All right. So we're gonna go into examining the number 4. Why did God place the new year on the fourth day? All right. So give us that.
The name of the fourth letter, Dalet, signifies a door. It represents the two universal doors by which we all enter and exit this world, birth and death. But to be more specific here, the fourth letter of the Hebrew language. This manifests in the chapter structure of Genesis, where the first birth, the first death, and the first use of the word door are all found in Genesis 4. Birth and death are the two most humbling experiences of life. Both are characterized by complete weakness.
So 4 out of the Hebrew alphabet represents door, the doorway. All right. And it represents, as we see, it says 2 universal doors. So this 4 represents 2 universal doors. All right, which we all enter and exit this world, birth and death. All right. So we're gonna see how this all correlates to what we're gonna go into about the New Year day that people put it on and use now. All right, which is January 1st. All right, but we're gonna see that at this door, who controls this door? All right, that we're at. So we're gonna go to St. John 10 and 9.
The book of St. John, chapter 10, verse 9. I am the door. By me, if any man enter in, he shall be saved, and shall go in and out and find pasture.
Give us the definition.
And the definition for door out of the Strong's is Greek word G 2374. Apparently a primary word, compare door, a portal or entrance, the opening or the closure, literally or figuratively, door, gate.
All right, so he
No
is
man
the
gets to the
door.
Father but through me.
All right, we're gonna see how this connects now to the calendar. All right, so we have a calendar here where one has, all right, the new year is represented through the equinox, all right, which is based on the sun popping up. And we have one where it's based, which is, the first one was Abib, which is based on the equinox, which is based on the sun popping up. And we have the other one, which is Nisan, which is based on the crescent moon popping up. All right, he's saying he is the door. So if we're gonna say which one is the new year doorway, it would be the one where the sun is, because he said he's the door. All right, how could the moon be leading
The
that
light,
one? All
his
right,
consciousness.
he said you come through him, you find pasture.
Being aware.
All right. You come through him, you get illuminated. You get, a lot of things. So even understanding this operation of the year will bring understanding to you. Because since we start to understand this, more understanding comes. You need to understand how the world operates, the law of nature, in order to get past everything. All right, so Christ is the door. All right, the sun is the doorway for the new year. So we're going to go into the Dead Sea Scrolls, and we're going to see how they came up with how the Essenes in Qumran observed their new year, all right, and the details of that. No, this is just this is out of the editorial part, out of the Dead Sea Scrolls. So they're gonna give the little quotes and stuff.
Okay. All right, once again, this is out of the Dead Sea Scrolls. In the book of Enoch, there is a reference to the first month in which, quote, the day becomes daily longer and the night nightly shorter, unquote, which is understood as following the vernal equinox. Book of Enoch, chapter 72, verses 6 to 10. In this way, he rises in the first month in the great portal, which is the fourth, those 6 portals in the cast. And in that fourth portal from which the sun rises in the first month are 12 window openings, from which proceed a flame when they are opened in their season. When the sun rises in the heavens, he comes forth through that fourth portal 30 mornings in succession, and sets accurately in the fourth portal in the west of the heaven. And during this period, the day becomes daily longer, and the night nightly shorter to the 13th morning. To the 30th morning.
All right. So this is out the book of Enoch, that part there. So we're in the editorial part where the person's giving some understanding on what he's seeing in the book of in the Dead Sea Scrolls, and now he's using some scriptural references to say what he's seeing. All right, and now he's going to the book of Enoch to show that this is where the vernal equinox comes from, where he sees the Essenes using. All right, and this scripture here shows the vernal equinox, where it's gonna now be where the days now become longer and the night becomes shorter, all right, after this day. All right, so continue for us.
The Essene Passover is assumed to follow Qumran practices according to the solar calendar described in the Book of Jubilees. The proper method of marking the passage of time is the movements of the sun, solar calendar. In fact, this was excuse me. In fact, this was one of the purposes for which the sun was created. This means that the year is to be 364 days long, consisting of 13 weeks, 4 days of remembrance after the solstices and the equinoxes. This solar calendar is equally divisible by 7 into 52 weeks, which means that the Sabbaths and the festival days will always fall on the same day of the month for every year.
All right, so the Sabbath and the festival days always fall on the same month, on the same day of the year. All right. Unlike other calendars where every year the stuff changes and it moves to a next one. The Essene calendar, the Most High's calendar, it's the same. It doesn't change, just like the Most High. All right. Stationary. It's the same way it's this year, same way this next year.
The fake sun.
Yeah.
That's how they're trying to pervert the Most High's creation.
That's what man constantly doing. All right, so we see the Essenes. This man is showing that the Essenes were observing a 364-day year that had equal 52 weeks in there. Now, if you were to take 365 and divide that by 7, see how much weeks that comes. You're not going to get 52 weeks equal. You're going to have extra days. All right, so the calendar is supposed to, I thought we had 7 days, 7 days a week, 7 days in a week.
Because of those.
That's why they put all those stuff in there, because they're trying to uphold the calendar that they made. They don't want to switch over to the Essene calendar that would just, all right, we just make it like this.
Leaker now. Yeah, it was leaker now.
Yes, so because they started off and the calendar was bad, they're trying to add all these patches in there to make it on the same, thing every year. So this is all the doctrine that they had to do from that time. So people wouldn't be like, oh, what the emperors did was wrong. All right, but continue for us out the Dead Sea Scrolls.
These 4 units of 13 weeks are each divided into 3 non-lunar months. Since God created the sun on the 4th day, the year must always begin on a Wednesday.
All right, so here he's seeing there that in the Essene calendar that the year was always falling on what we would now call Wednesday. All right, so because God created the sun and the moon and all of that stuff and put it out here on the 4th day, the year must always begin on the Wednesday. All right, a year must always begin on a Wednesday. All right, because Wednesday is the 4th day of the week, and the 4th day represents the door. All right, and we're in the doorway to a new year. And you're gonna understand that the new year has always been attached to doorway and doorway understanding.
The festivals always fall on the same day of the week and the same day of the month each year. As already indicated, there is a probable reference to 1 Enoch, chapter 72 to 82, and Jubilees, chapter 4, verse 17. The larger units of marking the passing of time are the quote-unquote week, period of 7 years, and the Jubilee, 7 times 7 equal 49 years. Throughout the book of Jubilees, the author attempts to date all significant events by this method.
All right, so in the book of Jubilees and how they always did things by sevens. All right, so 7, 7, 7. All right, 7 times 7, they got to 49. In the 50th year, they had, a celebration. All right, and that 50th year. All right, now if you go into the calendar, we times that by 7, and then we get the weeks now. All right, the 52 weeks.
That's why you get the payout for casino.
And then the 52 goes into 5, 2, which is 7, which now makes a complete year. All right, so 52 weeks. Now you see why it's like that. All right, 7 is completion. Continue for us.
Barry Smith, the Book of Jubilees, 2.4 calendar. So the Essene sacred year always began on the vernal equinox and is, by definition, Wednesday, first day of the first month, Nisan or Abib. Consequently, the Essene Passover will always begin 6 p.m. Tuesday, 13 days later, 14 of Nisan.
All right, so we have the Passover coming up, all right, 13 days later, all right. That is going to be at the Tuesday at the sundown. All right, continue.
The key point being Essene Passover always began Tuesday evening, 13 days after the vernal equinox. To outsiders, the Essenes would appear to observe the vernal equinox and, regardless of whatever the previous day was, declare that day to be Wednesday, 1st Nisan. However, within the Essene community, this would be entirely self-consistent. Their 364-day year had exactly 52 times 7-day weeks, and since the vernal equinox varied by less than 6 hours one year to the next, for all practical purposes, the Essenes never really adjusted their calendar. It was never off by more than a few hours, and any observation errors would likely be attributed to occluded viewing conditions when the sun's positioning and daytime transit duration could not be observed and measured. But to outsiders, comparing the Essene date and day of the week to other calendar systems, the Essenes would appear to be resetting their calendar to Nisan 1 every vernal equinox.
All right, so they're setting their calendar every Wednesday, all right, every equinox when it reaches on the Wednesday, and that's how they found their calendar system with at their community. So this was a community back then. It was a small community, and they understood. It's after the community is gone, they understood really what the community is, and they go into the community and they find all their stuff. So it would be like right now, if they're to come and they really realize who we are after they come into our community, you're gonna find the calendar. You're gonna be like, hey, these guys are using a different calendar here, and they're gonna look at all why we have and all our information that we have, and this is why we're getting around to this. All right, here we're gonna go into January. All right, so we're gonna go into the understanding of January. So January, all right, got its name from what people should know, Janus, all right, which is a god, a Greek god, a Roman god, all right. So we're gonna go into a little of that understanding.
Janus was the god of beginnings and transitions in Roman mythology and presided over passages, doors, gates, and endings, as well as transitional periods such as from war to peace. He was usually depicted as having two faces looking at opposite ways, one towards the past and the other towards the future.
All right, so Janus was the god of beginnings. All right, so this calendar that's set up, they put January there, and now he's heading the thing now. So, you know, January starting thing, it's not even really based on the moon no more. It's January 1st. So it's really based on this individual here. Whereas the Hebrew one is based on the moon and stuff. But now we have a God here that's saying he's the God of beginnings. And he has his own month. And he put his own time. And it's at 12 p.m. It's not at no moon sighting or anything. All right. So his month is different. So we have 3 months here. 3, set New Year's set up here. All right. So we have the Hebrews one that deals with the crescent moon. We have the Hebrew Israelites one that the Most High originally gave to them that deals with the vernal equinox that we see the Essenes dealing with. And we have Janus, which is now operating on January 1st at 12 p.m.
That's supposed to be the
a.m. Yes, a.m. Sorry. a.m. All right, turns to a.m. at 12. All right. So that's Janus, and that's his calendar, and he's the God of beginnings. And we just went and we seen that the Most High, Christ, is the doorway. He's the doorway. All right. He's attached to the vernal equinox, which is attached to his understanding and all the signs of him. All right. So we have Janus here that's dealing with that. He's dealing with doors and gates, and we see that the Most High, he put the sun and everything on the 4th day. So he's controlling that doorway. Now we have someone else that's saying they're dealing with the controlling of the doorway and the calendar that we're dealing with. All right, that's Janus. Continue for us.
There was no equivalent of Janus in Greek mythology. As a god of beginnings and transitions both in literal and abstract ways, he was also responsible for motion, changes, and time. He was present in the beginning of the world, guarding the gates of heaven, and he also presided over the creation of religion, life, and even the gods. He was probably considered the most important Roman god, and his name was the first to be mentioned in prayers, regardless of which god the worshiper wanted to pray to. Janus, okay, that's
Yeah, all right. So he was dealing with God's prayers. All of these things was given to Janus, who's heading the new year now. All right, continue for us. We're going into a little more about Janus.
Janus was the Roman god of doors, choices, beginnings, and endings. The first month of the year is called January after him. He is usually depicted with two faces, one on each side of the head. He was one of the earliest gods of Rome, sometimes referred to as, quote, the god of gods, unquote, or Deum Deo. He is often shown with beards on both faces, but originally Janus was depicted with one bearded face and another one clean shaven, which may have symbolized the moon and the sun, or age and youth. Occasionally he was depicted as four-faced, as the spirit of the four-way arch. He looks both towards the future and the past at the same time. One face looks back to the year departed, and one looks forward to the new year ahead. Janus was a porter of heaven and a guardian god of gates and doors. He was the Roman god of beginnings, and his name was an obvious choice for the first month of the year. The origins of Janus vary, and unlike other Roman and Greek gods, Janus may have been a mortal who came from Thessaly and was welcomed into Latium by Camais. They got married, shared the kingdom, and had many children together. As the ruler of Latium, Janus presided the Golden Age, introducing money, laws, and agriculture. When Camais died, Janus became the sole ruler and peacefully ruled Latium for many years.
All right, so we have Janus here, all right, and they say that Janus was possibly even one of the fallen ones, all right, and come from those seed lines, the sons or whatever, and you know what I mean? He becomes the guardian god of the door gates, all right? And he has two faces. So Janus represents the doorway, and he has two faces, just like I would say the doorway has two doors, all right? Life, death. Janus has two faces to represent that, all right? And that's what he represents. Huh? All right, so we then go on to see that Janus represents, all right, the ruler. Janus start introducing, all right, and he presided over the Gold Age, which introduced money, laws, and agriculture. You're gonna see with Janus, he bringing in the new year. The new year came with a lot of money giving, a lot of different things. The new year doesn't really have all that stuff with it. We're gonna go into a little thing. We're gonna speak about a little of the stuff that was in the new year in the past. All right, it had to deal with a lot of money, gift giving, all of that. We're gonna understand that why people were dealing with this new year and why they were doing this is because they had a belief that if they did this stuff, certain things would happen in the year. All right, so we're now gonna go into tracking the 7th day of the week. All right, this was out. Let me get this is Sabbath.com. All right, we're going into tracking the 7th day of the week, just to show that the weekday, it's still the 7-day week that we're in. So we're observing the Wednesday, and it's never changed, because that's the first thing people would be like, how do you know that, you know, it's the same Wednesday it did? How do you know that the week didn't change? All right, we're gonna go into that little understanding that the week has never changed. All right, so as much as people want to say there's scientific proof, there's historical proof, you could go look it up right now. All right, this is well known that the weekday has never been changed in the history of mankind, in any culture, in any nation, in anything like that.
You get the 3 and 3 and 1 in the middle, always.
What do you mean?
3 days, 3 days, that's equal.
Oh, yeah,
Cross each other off, and then one left. So it's perfect math. 3, 3, 1, 3, 3, 1.
A 7-day week. All right, so there's no culture, even when they found a culture inside of the woods or whatever, and they found them with a calendar, they're on the same day of the week. All right, so this is well known in history, and this little document is going to give us a little about that. All right, so continue for us. And they call it the venerable day of the week, but we're going to get into it. It's going to go into it.
Quote, one of the most striking collateral confirmations of the Mosaic history of the creation is the general adoption of the division of time into weeks, which extends from the Christian states of Europe to the remote shores of Hindustan, and has equally prevailed among the Hebrews, Egyptians, Chinese, Greeks, Romans, and northern barbarians, nations some of whom had little or no communication with others, and were not even known by their name to the Hebrews, unquote. Horn's Introduction, Volume 1. In the official League of Nations report on the reform of the calendar, published at Geneva, August the 17th, 1926, are the following representative statements by noted astronomers. Quote, the week has been followed for thousands of years, and therefore has been hallowed by immemorial use, unquote. Anders Donner, the report, page 51. I have always hesitated to suggest breaking the continuity of the week, which, without a doubt, is the most ancient scientific institution bequeathed to us by antiquity. And that's by Edward Ballard, the report, page 52.
All right, so here we see, all right, that they're speaking about, all right, that this 7-day week prevailed amongst the Egyptians, the Chinese, the Greeks, the Romans, northern barbarians, nations, even of some the Hebrews had little to no communication with. They didn't even know their names, so the Hebrews couldn't even name them in the Bible. All right, so there's some remote nations that Hebrews couldn't even name in the Bible. All right, this is what they're saying. All right, and that no matter how far or what nation this was, wherever they found them, they had the same week set up, 7 days, and they were on the same day of the week. They didn't find them and they're on the next day of the week. That never has happened, and this is shocking. Even, it's surprising when they go into the research how it's been able to stay strong. All right, and this is no coincidence, because when the Most High in Genesis, the Most High gives this to the whole earth, not just to the Hebrews. All right, there's no Hebrews yet, so all mankind got this instruction from the Most High to show that all mankind came from the Most High. So no matter where you find them, they're gonna have this understanding because they came from God. All right, so this is how it shows that the Bible is even more true, because why wouldn't we come across someone with 9-day week, or 10-day week, 12-day week, 30-day week? Who made up the 7-day week? All right, where does that understanding come from? All right, where does it come from? Why 7? And it goes back to why the Most High uses 7 being completion, things of that nature, and going back to Christ coming in the 7,000th year and giving us the rest. All of this stuff is based on the Most High. So if you could find now someone who's given the mankind from the beginning a different calendar that they came across, there isn't one. All right, so it shows more and more that the Most High is true and real. All right, but continue for us.
Quote, asked to question 1, I can only state that in connection with the proposed simplification of the calendar, we have had occasion to investigate the results of the works of specialists in chronology, and we have never found one of them that has ever had the slightest doubt the continuity of the weekly cycle since long before the Christian era. As to question 2, there has been no change in our calendar in past centuries that has affected in any way the cycle of the week, unquote, by James Robertson, personal letter dated March 12, 1932. Dr. Robertson was the director of the American Amphibious Navy Department, U.S. Naval Observatory, Washington, D.C.
All right, so we have someone from the U.S. Naval Observatory, Washington, D.C., 1932. And this is what they reported. The weekday has never changed. The continuity of the week has never been changed, no matter what nation you found, barbarian, in the woods, eating whatever. All right? They got this weekday. Okay? 7 days. So we're on the right day of the week. All right, this is the 4th day of the week. We don't have to worry about that. This is scientifically proven. You can't go, and there's nowhere you're going to get one where someone could bring you a calendar with a different week day setup. They have different months, different days of the months, different all of that. But the 7-day week has never changed. All right, so they'll have different days of how much days is in their month. But they don't touch the weekday, the 7-day week. They just go and adjust their calendar to that. All right, so they do whatever. They just never touch God's 7-day week. They leave that alone. All right, so they'll change how much time is in the year, how much days is in the year, how much days is in a month. But they're never going to change the structure on what day of the week they are on. That's never happened in history. All right, which is amazing. But they're saying that this is God showing his power on making sure that has never happened, to keep his thing there that we can see. All right, so everyone knows the 7-day week. Everyone knows 7 days, and everyone knows the Most High, how the Most High has lined up the Earth's cycle. All right, 7,000 years. Everyone knows that because they know, hey, the end of the week is coming. You know, all right.
Illuminati knows that, and the Illuminati oath. They talk about what they do, and that's going to be their plan. We're going to take blah, blah, blah. But they say never let the Creator of all things find out, for we will have nowhere to run.
Well, they don't. The Most High sees all things. Let's continue for us.
Quote, as far as I know, in the various changes of the calendar, there has been no change in the 7-day rota of the week, which has come down from very early times. Unquote. F.W. Dyson, personal letter dated March 4th, 1932. Dr. Dyson was an astronomer Royal Observatory, Greenwich, London.
All right, so we went through and they gave a bunch of different references and who these people are and the time periods they're from and their reporting, and they're all dealing with observing the stars and things of that nature. U.S. Observatory, Navy, this, all of these things, and this is what they're showing when they're going through the data. The calendar week has never changed. All right, the 7-day week has never changed. All right, and if it has never changed, then what the Most High instituted and he put on the 4th day is still here. All right, and that's why the SC New Year starts on the 4th year. All right, 4th day. And we're going to go to the Dead Sea Scroll, the fragments of Zadok, chapter 5, verse 1.
It's the fragments of Zadok out of the Dead Sea Scrolls, chapter 5, starting at the first verse. But with them that held fast by the commandments of God, who were left of them, God confirmed the covenant of Israel forever, revealing unto them the hidden things, wherein all Israel had erred, his holy Sabbaths and his glorious festivals, his righteous testimonies and his true ways, and the desires of his will, the which if a man do, he shall live by them. He opened before them, and they digged a well of many waters, and he that despises them shall not live.
All right. So it shows you the Essenes, the sons of Zadok, all right, who the Most High confirmed the covenant of Israel with forever, revealing unto them the hidden things. These are hidden things people don't understand. They don't understand why these things are set up like that, all right? And we understand the fullness of why he put it there, why it's on the 4th day. 4th day meaning doorway. And we know it means door because now they even use Janus, and Janus is used as a doorway symbol, and he's used as the New Year doorway. And the Most High tells us, Christ tells us he's the doorway. All right, Christ is the doorway, and that's attached to the vernal equinox and the sun and the solar system and that calendar. All right, so we're gonna go into John Chrysostom. All right. And he has a document called In Calendas, or on the calendars. All right. So that's the day that was published, but that's not the day it was named, so don't read that here. Yeah. All right. And he's going to go into and show us a little of how they were operating with the New Year in their time and what they thought of dealing with this false New Year. All right. So this Roman New Year was around this time, and this is the Christian viewpoint of the New Year. So they weren't very, harsh on a lot of, other days, but this day they could not adopt to this day. And there's a reason why, because this day is attached to Janus, and Janus they're saying is the doorway. All right, we're going to see the Christian thought on dealing with the New Year. All right, this Roman New Year. Continue with us.
John Chrysostom in Calendas on the calends of January. But as I said, ambition itself is not worthy of such accusations. Those who happen today to game in the taverns, these cause special pain and are full of much profligacy and impiety. Full of impiety, because those doing these things observe days, consult auguries, and think that if one celebrates the new moon of this month with pleasure and happiness, then the whole length of the year will hold the same of profligacy.
All right, so they're saying, all right, that on this day, all right, which it came on the new moon, all right, that they would have pleasure and happiness, and they would do a whole bunch of things on this day. And this was a ritual that they do, because they said if you do this on this beginning day, then the rest of the year will be good with you. All right, so this is why on New Year's the celebration's kind of gone down now, but it was a massive celebration. People were going to be giving, we're going to go into the details, going to give the details, but there is a whole festivity and religious rite around the new year and why they're celebrating it and have to bring in the new year like this. All right, and this is what it was based on, that you had to celebrate like this at the beginning of the year, or the whole year won't be the same. All right, it won't be a blessing to you. All right. Okay, all right.
All right, this is the definition here for profligacy. The quality or state of being, profligate. And synonyms: corruption, debauchery, depravity, immorality, iniquity, licentiousness, vice, sin. And the antonyms for that, or opposite, is morality and virtue.
All right. So if they didn't celebrate this, they believed that all these things would start to happen to them. All right. Well, continue.
Because men and women, having filled bowls with cups, drinked unmixed wine until dawn. These things are unworthy of our philosophy, whether you do them or you permit others to do them, whether servants or friends or neighbors.
All right. So they show you that they're drinking up all the way till dawn. All right. Well, continue.
Have you not heard Paul saying, you keep days and months and seasons and years? I fear lest I have labored in vain for you. Otherwise, it is of the most extreme folly that from one day, if it be fortunate, to expect this from the whole year.
All right. So it's saying, they're saying that if they do this one day, they're expecting this fortune for the rest of the year. All right. But continue.
But it's not of folly alone. Rather, this is the judgment of diabolical activity, not to entrust the things of our life to our own haste and eagerness.
All right, and people still do this now, and oh, look at this calendar, this happens on this, and this happens on that, and something might happen on there. The Most High shows you, if you are with the Most High and you do this, these things are going to always happen to you. All right, it's not based on days and things of that nature. We're going to see where all that stuff comes from. We'll continue.
But to the cycles of days, the whole year will be fortunate for you, not if you are drunk on the new moon, but if both on the new moon and each day you do those things approved by God.
All right, so they thought that if they got drunk and celebrated the new year and this and plans and the rest of the year is going to be like that. All right, he's saying that's not how you do it. If you're doing the things approved by God, this is how you're going to make sure the rest of the year is good for you. Every day is going to be good. All right. But they had the heavy belief that celebrating the new year, what do you do for the new year? We have to celebrate. It's new year. That's the vibration everybody has right now. All right? You got to celebrate the new year. You got to bring in the joy. So it's a blessed new year. New Year's come. It's a lot of money spent. It's a lot of things. New Year's a big money day. All right? You have to have fun. It's the new year. You have to bring in the new year. Who's bringing in the new year? All right? We'll continue.
For days come, wicked and good, not from their own nature. For a day differs nothing from another day, but from our zeal and sluggishness. If you perform righteousness, then the day becomes good to you. If you perform sin, then it will be evil and full of retribution.
All right, so it shows you, if you do good, the day gonna be good to you. All right? And it's always going to be that. Now, you could tell when, okay, you're getting afflicted because you're getting good and then out of nowhere it's affliction, all right? But now if you're doing bad, things just keep happening here and happening. When people are in the world, they don't know it because it's like normal life to them. But when you're watching, you're just like, yo, every second is a next thing, and then a next thing, and then a next thing, and then it's a next thing. They just think it's normal, right? And then, health problem, and this now, and that. It's just a whole bunch of different things, all right? But continue for us.
If you contemplate these things and are so disposed, you will consider the whole year favorable, performing prayers and charity every day. But if you are careless of virtue for yourself, and you entrust the contentment of your soul to beginnings of months and numbers of days, you will be desolate of everything good unto yourself.
All right, so it shows you if you're trusting in these things of the days, and this day does this, and you're gonna be dealing with yourself and being all around the place. All right. If you're dealing with the entrustment of your soul, the beginning of months, the numbers of days, you'll be desolate of everything good to yourself. All right. So some people go, oh, let me look at the calendar. Let me look at this. See, this happened. They're already saying what their day is gonna be like. They're already now writing off, what everything's gonna go, how this relationship is gonna go, based on what you've seen right here, and not based on my spirit and what my spirit can do and things of that nature. All right. So some people is even so much that if they're gonna talk to somebody, they're gonna be like, hey, when are you born? Nope. Boom. Closed door, because you're just on that day. They just believe that because you're there, guess what? I know that this is what's gonna happen, and you're no good for me. And you even just saying that already is what's making it come out. All right, your words manifest these things. All right, your thoughts manifest it. So if you're believing that, and now it happened, yes, it happened. You manifested it. You reap what you sow. This is what the thoughts that you're sowing. Right? You sow good thoughts, you reap good thoughts. All right, good things come back. That's why it says the best thing you have to have is confidence. Because if you don't think you can do it, you ain't never gonna do it. All right.
Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
You plant the seed that you can do it. Now you can do it.
I believe.
Right? You have to believe you can do it. You have to have that in your mind. All right. So continue for us.
Which then the devil, perceiving and hastening to make an end of our labors in virtue, and to extinguish our willingness of mind, taught success and failures to be inscribed on the days.
All right, so it says the devil, perceiving and hasting to make an end of your labors in virtue, extinguish our willingness of mind, and taught success and failures based on days. So Satan's who taught your successes and your failure is going to be based on the days. All right, and this is what people use right now.
You say take away your labor in virtue?
Mm-hmm.
Labor?
Mm-hmm.
No one's working?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This is the book of St. Matthew chapter 6 verse 34. It's Christ speaking here. Take therefore no thought for the morrow shall take thought for the things of itself. Sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof.
Mm-hmm. All right, so he's showing you there. Stop watching the day and worry about this day and the next day. And some people watch the day, they know that, hey, people who are stuck on the days, and it's a lot of people who deal with like the witch stuff and things of that nature, they're heavy on this day is coming up, this week is this, that, this day is this, that, and they tell these people this, and they're like, oh, woman, feminine, today is the day where your masculine lover is going to do this and that, and he's going to do this and this and that. And the woman believed it. They're like, oh man, my husband's going to do this. Or on this day, it's this day. You need to separate from him. You need to go away from him. And they're going to go away and do all because they believe that this is what's happening. And these women are on the thing and they get their calls from other women. And the woman's like, yeah. And this is what goes on. This is what's attached to all of this.
It's heard a triple goddess in the way here. It's like a triple OG, I guess.
Triple OG, triple goddess. All right. We were reading that? Oh, no, continue.
For the one persuading himself that a day is evil and good will neither have a care for the good deeds on the evil day, as if performing all things in vain, and benefiting nothing on account of the necessity of the day, nor again on the good day will he do this, as if from his own idleness causing no harm, again on account of the good fortune of the day, and thus from each he promotes his own well-being, and sometimes doing profitless things, sometimes superfluous things, he will pass his life in leisure and wickedness, knowing which he must flee from the wiles of the devil, and cast out this influence of thought, and observe not the days, neither to hate one nor to love one. For that wicked demon does contrive these things, not only in order to cast us into idleness, but also to revile the works of God, wishing to draw down our souls both into impiety and idleness at the same time.
All right, so Satan came up with these. This is going to happen on this day. The Most High made us acknowledge days, but he's making us acknowledge what happened on that day. So these are days of remembrance to understand what happened. He's not saying that this day, this happened on this day, this was going to always happen to you on this day, or base your days on this. These are just remembrance and things. He's not using the days of the week like how these people are using it, all right, to base it on your fortunes and how your life is going to go. All right, your life is going to go based on how the scriptures is. And that's why the Most High gave us the wisdom scriptures, Proverbs, all of that. It tells you if you do this, this was going to happen. These are all based on behavior, all right, not days. All right, this is why we have those scriptures, so that if you operate like this is what will come from that. All right, if someone's operating like this is what's attached to that spirit. That's what God's telling us. He's not telling us, yo, check what day that was. All right, on that day, the spirit came on it. And this is what he does on that day. So understand, that's not what the scriptures tell you. All right, these are all attached to spirits. All right, and moral disposition. All right. Were we done that there? Yeah. All right. So we're now going to go to real quick. We just have a couple more scriptures. We're just going to go to St. Patrick's Day and show how St. Patrick's Day and New Year's Day coincide. All right. So we had the pagans, they had their day that they were dealing with. And St. Patrick now, we went into this lesson already. You could go and watch it on our thing, the St. Patrick's Day lesson. But St. Patrick's came into Ireland there, and he cleaned up the area there of the pagans, all right? And the pagans had a day there, and on that day, he's like, instead of dealing with that, they made it his day, all right? Where he brought this celebration and stuff, and it all was attached to the equinox, and he placed it on this day where the equinox is, and on the New Year day as well, and that's why it all ends up on this day. So I believe today's St. Patrick's Day as well. All right, so this is how it all lines up with each other. All right, so it's only this. This St. Patrick's Day is always gonna have March 17th on there at that time, and it line up with the Wednesday, because our calendar doesn't really shift like that, and he based it on that, and he placed it right there. All right, so March 17th. You're seeing that St. Patrick's Day also marks the celebration of New Year, and that's why it's attached with liquor, right? Because they are celebrating all of that. St. Patrick's Day, everyone knows, booze up, all of that, all right?
Persian New Year, alcohol, they right?
And then they have the green associated with spring, so a lot of green, right? New Year, so all of that. Clover, all right? And the clover, right? But people think it's just a clover, but it's also spring. It's also a new year. Green would represent the color of New Year, right? That would be what other color? You're gonna use orange? Orange, that's fall and stuff, right? Green is summer. Summer, spring, green.
Orange is fall. Go to jail, you wear orange.
Oh, yeah, you fell.
You fell. That's
Man
a
down.
good one, brother.
Man down. Man down, man down.
Man down, brother. Okay. Yes, so all right, we're gonna go into a little St. Patrick's Day out of the Britannica.com. They're gonna give us.
St. Patrick's Day is a feast day. St. Patrick's Day, feast day, March 17th, of St. Patrick, patron saint of Ireland. Born in Roman Britain in the late 4th century, he was kidnapped at the age of 16 and taken to Ireland as a slave. He escaped but returned about 432 to convert the Irish to Christianity. By the time of his death on March 17, 461, he had established monasteries, churches, and schools. Many legends grew up around him. For example, that he drove the snakes out of Ireland and used the shamrock to explain the Trinity. Ireland came to celebrate his day with religious services and feasts.
All right, so he got rid of all the goons and all of these things in Ireland, all right, and drove them away. And they took on Christianity, and this nation now became a Christian nation, and that's why they love St. Patrick there, because this is who brought them their gospel, all right, and the gospel of Christ, so they honor him. All right, so we're going to go into the connection of St. Patrick's Day and the Spring Equinox.
St. Patrick. St. Patrick's Day is celebrated within a few days of the Spring Equinox. Could it be that the Spring Equinox festival was Christianized to St. Patrick's Day and that this knowledge has been lost over time? St. Patrick's Day is celebrated in Ireland and around the world on March 17th, the reputed date of his death in 461 AD. It wasn't until the 1600s that St. Patrick's feast day was placed on the universal liturgical calendar in the Catholic Church, so the date had been passed down from generation to generation for over 1,000 years. The early Christian church in Ireland incorporated pre-Christian spirituality and festivals into the new religion. It is conceivable that the Spring Equinox festival became Christianized and rebranded as St. Patrick's Day.
All right, so the people were used to dealing with a celebration on that day and things of that nature. So just to go back to it, the Hebrews and them, they never really celebrated that day. So on that day, you see, this day is going to be the beginning of months. It didn't say celebrate this day and have a feast day and think that wasn't what they were doing. All right, so the celebration behind the New Year's came from the pagans, all right, who wanted to celebrate the solstice on that day. Can't deal with celebration. So now the Christians are like, all right, you want to celebrate this now, let's morph in and make a day now. And this is what they come up with, a new day and celebration day, St. Patrick's Day, where it has all of these things combined. All right, so we going back to the Exodus 12, the Most High never said to celebrate this day. So he just said this day is going to begin your month. It wasn't a day where we were commanded to go and celebrate. All right, so we'll continue for us.
This- The Spring Equinox is the beginning of the quote light unquote half of the year, where the sun is strongest and the days are longer than the nights. St. Patrick brought the quote unquote light of a different sun, the Son of God, to Ireland. The adaptable Irish Celts may have simply rebranded the Spring Equinox festival to St. Patrick's feast day.
All right, so they're like St. Patrick's. They were dealing with the sun and dealing with the equinox. Now they're like, hey, St. Patrick's brought us the sun. All right, let's now, why move the day of, dealing with the sun and the thing? Let's just rebrand it, honor St. Patrick who brought us Christ, and incorporate the whole thing in there. All right, so this is why they symbolize and have it there, where St. Patrick brought them the sun, the light, and they were celebrating the solstice on this day and celebrating their gods. All right, and now they rebranded it and they deal with it in St. Patrick and in love. And I guess they didn't want to put it, and this is just my guess, but they didn't want to attach the Most High so much to it and say, hey, this is why you're drinking, because on this day a lot of drinking and things is going on. So this is what the thing about Christianity, they're trying to deal with everybody. All right, so you want to do all of that, all right, we'll make a day, but we can't really, what are we going to call it, holy day, or the Most High's day, or name this thing. So they just put it, this is St. Patrick. St. Patrick's brought this, make it this day, and now on this day we could, we know it's the new year, we know it's all of that, and people do a little drinking and this and that on that day. It's better to do it in the Lord and do it in that than into what they were doing before. All right, and if they're doing it with St. Patrick's, they're honoring him who's attached to the Lord as saint, and they're doing drinks, a little thing like that nature. So this is how they came up with that. All right, so you have a community of people, you have to be very adaptable to everybody. All right, everybody wants to do something, you have to adapt to make everybody appeased. All right, so that we can all get along.
First class.
We'll continue for us.
Early Irish Celtic Christianity, with its unique mix of Christian and pre-Christian beliefs and practices, continued in Ireland until the Celtic monasteries were suppressed in the 12th century. By the time the date for St. Patrick's Day was placed on the universal liturgical calendar in the 1600s, the connection with the Spring Equinox would have been lost.
All right, so people lost the connection with the Spring Equinox. All right, so it's going to go into one more scripture. All right, and this is from Asterius of Amasia. All right, this is a sermon he had, and it's a sermon on festival of the calendar. And he's just going to break down once again in his time, he's seeing this day happen. All right, this January New Year's festival happening, and it's happening around the time of, that's the Christmas time, and all of that's going on. So he's explaining what the people are dealing with, why they deal with their Christian stuff compared to this feast day that's popping up in January. All right, so continue for us.
All right, Asterius of Amasia sermons. This is sermon 4 on the festival of the Calends. on the festival of the calends, yesterday and today, 2 feasts, not only unrelated and discordant, but wholly adverse, hostile to each other, have been celebrated. One is of the rabble without, gathering in large sums the money of mammon, and bringing in its train bargaining, vulgar and mean.
All right, so one of these feast days, and this is the New Year one, it's attached to gathering in large sums the money of mammon and bringing in its train and bargaining and vulgar and mean. All right, so a lot of money and stuff is attached to that New Year day. This was a heavy money day. All right, but continue.
The other is of holy and true religion, inoculating acquaintance with God and the virtue of the purified life.
All right, they're going to show you that these are the end of the year Christian feast days that he's comparing to this New Year one out of nowhere. Because we have all the Christian ones, then we have this big celebration. So people are going to celebrate the New Year's ones and all of those. I mean, the Christmas and all of those. And then out of nowhere, we have New Year celebration that's coming upon us. So this is what he's seeing here and explaining. But continue.
And since many, preferring the luxury and absorption which arise from vanity, have left off going to church, come, let us with the discourse dispel from your souls this foolish and unharmful delight, which as a sort of inflammation of the brain with laughter and jesting induces death.
All right, so he's showing that this is that what the people are doing. We see how the people that celebrate that, they're going into, that they laugh, they do all this New Year's, but then they don't understand that they're void of understanding and what this is all bringing upon them. All right, but continue.
You could only imagine the amount of people that die on those days.
Oh, yeah.
Is there anything for a joke?
Yeah. Continuing here. And in the treatment of the subject, I may fittingly emulate Solomon. For in counseling young men to keep themselves from the snares of licentiousness, in order to make his own admonition cognate and effective, he personifies excess as an abandoned woman, and by portraying all her wickedness, he thus exposes her to her dupes as deserving of their hatred. 1. Wherefore I, too, after showing the vanity of the human heart in my discourse, will attempt to convert the lovers of pleasure from their misdirected zeal. Of a public feast, this then should be the rule and law. First, that the festival have a distinct object, and then that the mirth be common to all. Not apart enjoy themselves, and the rest be left in dejection and pain.
All right, so it shows you, all right, that if you're going to have a feast, all right, so first it says that the counseling the young men to keep themselves from the snares of this lasciviousness, all right, the drinking and things of that nature. Whereas on the New Year's, they're, that's all that they're putting there. On the St. Patrick's, it's attached to St. Patrick, all right? So people who want to do this, at least now you put something there and they're like, you know what? It's attached to somebody, it's attached to an object. Who's St. Patrick? What are the person celebrating? They'll be like, who's St. Patrick? When I started celebrating what do you call the Caravana, we were all in the elevator. All right, and it's this what do you call lady came in and she's so like, oh, how these black people are celebrating this thing. She's like, what are you guys celebrating? Everyone in the elevator is like, you don't really know. They don't really know. You don't know the object of what we're celebrating, right? Because what are you celebrating? What is it tied to? Who's the person? Who's the thing? What's the date?
Why she need an explanation?
Yeah.
Because people are celebrating.
Yeah. Well, that's what's supposed to. You're celebrating something. It's supposed to have that. What is it? What is it? You know what I mean? Is it something that happened on the day that you're celebrating? People make up that, you know what? I think it's because the slaves got freed and that's what they want to do. That's the normal one if you ask somebody why they're celebrating that in the Caribbean. They don't really know. It's not attached to that. It's attached to a god. They're hiding the god. So you're just like, I'm celebrating. You have to make up something. All right. But that was a good question, which really woke me up. I'm like, you know what? What are they really celebrating? What are you celebrating? We're all here having this fun, getting all of this. But what are we gathered here for? What's the whole? Where's the thing? So that was a good thing. But this is what a feast day should have. So now we sneak in St. Patrick's Day, and you know what? It's gonna catch those of the world who like to drink, go to places. Who's St. Patrick? What's that attached to? You're going to ask yourself these questions and now begin to seek. St. Patrick is now attached to who? Christ, the gospel, to all of this. It brings us to something. All right? We'll continue.
For this latter condition is characteristic of war rather than of a feast, since it is inevitable that the victors parade in their victory, while the conquered bewail their misfortune. Now in these days, first, it is not clear for what object this festival is celebrated. For the many legends current concerning it are mutually subversive and disclose nothing certain. Then I see only a few making merry, while the mass of the people are melancholy, even though they try to conceal their dejection with a cheerful demeanor. While all this noise and tumult, the multitude heedlessly josting one another. It is a recollection of and rejoining over the new year. What kind of rejoining, sir? First, then I observed the manner of meeting. Of what sort is it, and how suspicious and unfriendly? With a voice feeble and faint, the salutation drops from the lips. Then follows the kiss as a prelude to the New Year's present. The mouth indeed is kissed, but it is the coin that is loved, the form of a sale and the deed of covetousness. But where is the pure and frank friendship? Kindness and are freely bestowed with no exception of gain. Expectation of gain.
All right. So in the new year, that time, they were going and they're going to be giving things to people, kissing people and giving money and stuff. Because their belief is like, yo, I have to do this stuff on this day, or yo, the rest of the year, it's not going to be good. So that all what they're doing on that day was based on what they want from the rest of the year is the year to be good for them. So that's why you're saying you're giving kisses, you're giving these presents, you're giving this. But this is not because you really like this person. You want the rest of the year to be good for you.
That means, everyone said what you're doing on New Year, that's what you're going to be doing for the rest of the year.
Yeah, that's a saying. That's definitely a saying. So if you're giving and doing this and doing that, the rest of the new year, they're saying you're blessed.
Yeah, or who you're here, who you're with on New Year's.
Yeah.
It's who you're going to be with for the year.
Yeah. So this is the thought that is going around that. All right, so continue for us.
So, while on this New Year's festival, many things are carried about everywhere, and money is given. There was no pretext of legitimate barter, nor does anyone claim it. It is not a wedding, so that one might call it prodigality of a haughty bridegroom, nor I am able to call the expenditure almsgiving, since no poor man is relieved of his misfortune. One cannot call what takes place exchange, for the multitude exchange nothing with one another.
All right, so they're saying they don't know, he don't even know what to call it. It's all this giving and people, he don't even know what to call it because it's not attached to these things, all right? It's not a wedding, it's not a this. He's trying to see what is the point of giving these things because remember, this wasn't really done on New Year's. This is not what people do, all right? So this celebration around the New Year's, this never happened, all right? In the Bible, they never celebrated New Year. The Most High just said this is the beginning of months. All right, so people were put all this stuff around the new year. All right, now we had St. Patrick's that come in. This is the vibration that all these people have, and they want to celebrate something, they want to do something. So they morph it into St. Patrick's to bring people away from it not having no object or not having no point of the gospel or nothing. Now it's attached to St. Patrick. St. Patrick's attached to the Most High, Christ. Now you're seeing it's attached to the vernal equinox, things of that nature.
You said earlier only a few were doing it in the beginning.
Only few. Even right now, we're the only ones that really understanding this. All right. Continue for us.
But to call it a free gift is still more inappropriate, since the giving is by necessity. What then? Are we to call the festival or the money spent in it? I cannot make out. But tell me, you who have been wearing yourselves out in preparing for it, give an account of it, as we do of the festival which are genuine and according to the will of God. We celebrate the birth of Christ, since at this time God manifested himself in the flesh. We celebrate the Feast of Lights, Epiphany, since by the forgiveness of our sins we are led forth from the dark prison of our former life into a life of light and uprightness. Again, on the day of resurrection, we adorn ourselves and march through the streets with joy, because that day reveals to us immortality and the transformation into higher existence. Thus, we keep these feasts and the rest of them in orderly succession. For every human event there is a reason, but that which lacks reasonable explanation and purpose is stuff and nonsense.
All right, so it brings us back to Ecclesiastes 3:1. To everything under the thing, there's a purpose. All right, to every season, to everything, there's a purpose. These feast days are not, oh, we just want to celebrate something. God manifested on these days. God did something on these days. God did this. God did that. That's why we're observing this. They're saying what you're observing is of no benefit. All right, so we're not just observing because we want to observe. We're not observing things because, oh, this is just something fun to observe. These are very serious things. God did something on these days. We ought to observe it, in contrast to what he's saying other people are observing, and you don't have an explanation for what you're observing. All right, and this is what he was saying about New Year's. All right, and this is what the culture was about New Year's. All right, so all these feasts was going around about it. We had January, we had New Year's. That's January 1st, January 5th. You get the 12th night, which is, you get the Eastern Orthodox Christmas, or what they call the Old Christmas. All right, so Christmas was in January in the old Eastern world, and they call that the Old Christmas. All right.
As I was listening to you, when you were speaking about the guy who Janus named after,
That who?
Janus
Oh,
named
yeah,
after.
yeah.
Actually wanted to be like Christ. When Christ is the door, and he said he wanted to be exactly that. So they knew exactly who Christ was. That's the reason why. That's the reason why he wanted to be first. He wanted to be like Christ.
And now he's at January 1st.
Yeah.
Now he's at the first. Now he's at the first month. Everyone's like, "Oh, he's the first month. He bring in the year. He bring that." So this is why we have to separate from that January thing, because it's not just a day, or this is attached to a direct someone trying to say day to door, and we know the doorway is who? Christ. That's attached to what this time of the year, spring, where the sun's popping out, which is attached to the equinox. So we can't change that, because to change that means we're not dealing with Christ, and that's what they're dealing with by putting up January 1st at 12 a.m. This is the new year. This is totally now January's calendar, and him controlling the doorway.
So they're taking away from Christ.
They're taking away from Christ. Christ said, "I'm the door," all right, which should be based on the sun, the vernal equinox. All right. So once again, with that being said, we brought everything out. Why we celebrate, the first day of the first day of the first month on the fourth day of the week. All right.
So is that him saying the door? Let no man get through the Father but through you.
So we celebrate the first day of the first month on the fourth day of the week. The Most High, the calendar, once again, is not based on calculating and observing days, all right, or documenting the days, all right, following the days, tracking the days. It's tracking the sun, moon, and the stars. The days happen to be in between all of that, where you can number them and see how much is in these time periods where the sun, moon, and the star are doing these things. But days were already running before the Most High put the sun, moon, and the stars in place. He put that on the fourth day of the week. So on the fourth day of the week was the first day of the first month, which is telling us how the moon and the stars are being calculated and their movement. So the calendar is all based on the sun, moon, and stars movements, not the days of the week. All right, that's what tricks people, why people can't understand this mystery. All right.
And then I am the Alpha and Omega, the beginning and end.
All right, so we went through a bunch of that. We went through the Abib being the Hebrew Israelites' day, which is based on the vernal equinox. So when you're hearing about what the Most High put in the Bible, and it's saying Abib, that's the vernal equinox. There's now a new one called Nisan, and that's attached to the moon crescent and the moon. Once again, Christ is the door. So the sun is the doorway. All right, so they're dealing with moon doorway. We're dealing with sun doorway, which is dealing with the vernal equinox. All right, which means equal night. Equinox means equal night. All right. And we went and showed that the weekday has never changed. The 7-day week has never changed. It's never switched up. All right. Then we showed that St. Patrick's Day happens to be on the New Year's Day. All right. And on the vernal equinox, because he came and he rid the Ireland people from dealing with their pagan stuff. And now they instituted this day where they had all these celebrations on. And this day falls on this day. We're on the day right now where it's St. Patrick's Day. So it's still running on right now. It's still on the fourth day. It's March 17th, the fourth day, the new year. Happy New Year once again. All right. So with that being said, we're going to go to Philippians 4 and 8.
The book of Philippians chapter 4 verse 8. Finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true.
All right. So these things are true. All right. It's true that the Most High put the sun, moon, and the stars up in the sky, in the firmament, on the 4th day. All right. The calendar is tracking the sun, moon, and the stars. All right. The sun, moon, and the stars went up, and the first day of the first month was on the 4th day of the week. The new year will be on the 4th day. This is a true statement. Continue.
Whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report.
All right, and we went through the report of this. We went through all the report on even though the 7-day week, that this has never been changed. No culture, not even barbarian culture, who they found in the coast of nowhere, all right, has changed up their 7-day week. They haven't added 10 days, 9 days to a week, 21 days, 30 days, 100 days. Why? Who made up how much days you can have in a week? All right, so this is how we know. All right, we'll continue.
If there be any virtue, and if there be any praise, think on these things. Those things which ye have both learned and received and heard and seen in me, do, and the God of peace shall be with you.
All right. So all praises be unto the Most High, Almighty Ahaya Shahaya Christ. This is the Essene New Year happening on the 4th day of the week, and it is now the 1st day of the 1st month. All right. So all praises that we're all lining up with ancient document, ancient records, ancient understanding, and going back to the beginning. All right, which is going to be same as the end. All right, and we're tied to the Alpha and Omega. All right. So all praises, and we're gonna celebrate. All right. So let's get to it.
Get her.